Good morning, guten morgen, magandang umaga, konnichiwa, bonjour. So, firstly, I'd like to apologize and say that I am very sorry, and I actually mean it, that I waited way too long to make a part 2 to my last video, that I completely lost my train of thought. And because I don't rehearse my videos, and I never know what I'm really how I'm going to explain something, that again, I might have been on fire at the time of a particular topic of what I wanted to talk about, but then the holidays happened, and once you're away from something for so long, sometimes you don't even know what day it is. Never mind what you were just talking about. So again, I'm sorry. Maybe at some point I will continue to talk about whatever it was I was talking about. Come back around. But I did want to say that now that we're in 2024, today is January 1st, that I'm not one to necessarily predict, or I never predict, but I don't live under a rock. I hear a lot of things that other people are talking about, but I'm just going to testify in my own testimony things that I've personally witnessed and just share it with you, and maybe you may be experiencing the same things and it may reassure you and edify you in your own walk on some level, that someone else who is born again in Christ is going through the same things. And it might not be the same exact things, but I think you get what I'm talking about. Just going through the spiritual warfare of everyday things. Like on Christmas Eve, I went to Dollar General. Now, you might think that that's probably the worst decision I can talk. It might not be a good idea to do that, because there were a lot of people doing a lot of last minute stocking stuffer stuff. I don't celebrate Christmas myself. I was just going there for snacks for my son, because I was seeing my son that day. But there were a lot of people there doing last minute stuff, and I happened to have to stand in line because they only had one register with one person on it, and for whatever reason the self-checkout wasn't turned on until another employee came and set that up. But we wound up standing there, and I'm a pretty patient person. I'm never in a rush. If you're in a rush to get to a destination, don't stop at the store. Don't expect that you're going to be in and out in a minute, and never have that expectation. So if you don't have that expectation, you're not going to get impatient and irritated and angry because you're standing in line. So we wound up standing in line, and I was talking to an older woman that was in front of me, and the guy behind me was getting really impatient. And really, we were only there for 5 minutes tops, probably. But I imagine if you have no patience to begin with, 5 minutes is an eternity to you. So the guy behind us was getting impatient, and he wanted to cut in front of us once they turned the self-checkout, not even asking if we wanted to use the self-checkout, until the older gentleman that was next in line said, No, I plan on using the self-checkout. So the guy wound up waiting anyways and getting even more irritated because he didn't get what he wanted. So why am I sharing this with you? Well, it's the same thing happens when I'm driving. I notice lately I can't drive fast enough for someone. In this area, I live in the Berkshires. So there's a lot of back roads that are 40 to 45 to 50 miles per hour. And on any given day, a lot of the times I'm driving 5 miles, sometimes closer to 10 miles over the speed limit. Just because when you're going downhill, I don't ride my brakes when I go downhill, and it just picks up speed and I just let it glide, as I'm always praying to the Lord that my car makes it safely back into my driveway, because I don't want a deer running out in the road, or a fox, or a raccoon, or a porcupine, or anything running out. I even get nervous when a squirrel, I don't even want to hit a squirrel or a chipmunk. But anyhow, I've noticed the aggression that everyone wants something in 5 minutes or less. And if they can't get it done, or whatever, or can't have that instant gratification, they get impatient. And knowing that this is spiritual, one of the wonderful and beautiful things about walking with Christ is I'm not in a hurry to get to my destination. I also am aware, like, the Lord's slowed me down, where before I was born again in Christ, I never took the opportunity really to observe just a simple interaction of, let's just say I was waiting in line outside to use the ATM, and a gentleman walks up and he starts having a simple conversation with me. It's like I analyze that conversation or that interaction of what words I'm going to use and how I'm going to respond, or how I'm going to react or not react, or observing and actually listening to what the other person is saying. Because before I was born again in Christ, a lot of the times with my ADHD and my brain's going, however my brain is like churning smoke. About to like blow steam. No, with my ADHD, before I was born again in Christ, I wasn't actually listening to what the other person was saying. I was waiting for them to be finished so I could say whatever I wanted to say. And now that I'm a new creation in Christ, I notice that it slowed me down, where I realize and I know the truth that it's not important necessarily of what I have to say or what I have to offer, versus what is the Lord showing me through an interaction with someone. Because if someone else, for whatever reason, is getting under my skin, why? Well, because it's spiritual and the enemy knows how to push your buttons. And having eyes to see is to be able to see the spiritual aspects of any person that's not born again in Christ has another spirit running their vessel at the steering wheel here in their temple. And so having eyes to see and knowing this, knowing the truth, I have a love and a patience and an understanding for other people that if Christ didn't show me the truth about the spiritual aspect, then I wouldn't have forgiveness and patience. Like, I see a lot of people that claim to be born again in Christ and claim to have forgiveness for other people, but clearly by their actions and their words of keep talking over and over about someone else and what they've done to them and how they feel wronged and etc. Clearly they haven't forgiven them, and clearly they have no patience for the other person because they can't let it go. And part of coming out of the world is being able to come away from and let go of, you don't feel personally attacked anymore. You know that people are angry because of the Spirit that's in you, Christ, that they have no love of the truth. So that hatred or impatience or whatever they have towards you is because they do not have love of the truth. And that space that they're in, the lie that they live in, they can't let that go. They do not want to let it go. In fact, they're holding on to it so tightly because that lie is their security. And I have an understanding for that, and I hope I plant a good seed and help you have an understanding for others and patience for others. And knowing the truth sets you free. I'm set free. I'm not emotionally tied to what other people do and what other people say, and that's where I have my peace. So I love you, and God bless.